This is the design I'm painting today. I thought I would show you the final product at the start and then again at the end. So this is on a Happy Dotting Company tea light candle holder cast stone. I start by just marking only the center dots where I put marks where I'm going to put the initial dots, and then I put another dot in between each. I'm starting with a 2mm tool size, then increasing it 0.5 mm on each row until I get to the midpoint of the stone. Then I start decreasing it by 0.5 mm each time. This helps to keep size, spacing all consistent. And then in a moment, I will show where I start looking at the center of the stone to start aligning each row. So not only am I looking at the spacing between the previous dots and then lining up the center, I'm also looking to line up without using guidelines where I'm gonna keep the spacing. Yeah, here I'm showing it. So I'm looking at the center and then going out so that I'm kind of anywhere I've got slightly offline, I can move the dots so that they're starting to line up. The first row is the better spacing you can get on the first row really lines it up for the rest of the project. So if you need to go and redo any of the first row, it's a lot easier. If you watch closely, there is a few that aren't quite right on that first row, and so that's why I'm kind of going and recorrecting them. And I've heavily sped up this video just so that you can see how I've done the design. And once I've done the base white dots, you can choose whatever dot pattern you want to put as top dots. So I've created some other completely different color, like the way I've done the top dots, and it completely changes the entire design. So it's all based on the same first layer of dots, but using like where you place the top dots, whether you put them in the center or move them into different positions, will give a completely different look, which I will put some of the differences at the end of the video for examples of a couple of other patterns. So this is the center row, which is the widest part of the stone. And then I'm going to start decreasing the size after this row and trying to keep it so that it starts to wrap over the stone to keep spacing consistent. And the best way to do that is by just reducing the dot size. And something to keep in mind is, because I'm increasing and decreasing the tool size, try and keep a similar depth of paint on the tool, because if you were to say use a 2mm and just dip just the end of the tool into the paint, then dip the tool a centimetre into the paint and then 2 centimetres into the paint, the dot size is going to be very different. So the more consistent you dip the tool at the same depth, the more consistent your increase and decrease in dot size will stay. As I mentioned before, now that I'm on the next row, I'm using the same size tools, but with the top dots, I'm dipping the tool only just in the paint, which gives a smaller dot. And the more you play around with doing top dots, the more consistent you can get to matching the size of what you need. It really does take some experimenting, and the more you experiment, the more you'll naturally get better at it, which just, it's all practice to understand whether you're using the same tools, or if I was to use, say, a 1.5mm on that first row, if I dip the paint the same depth as the first layer of top dots, would give me a similar size top dot as using the 2mm by just dipping the end of the tool into the paint. This layer, I'm slowly adjusting the tool size, and I'm also adjusting the depth of paint on the tool, just really not touching the tip of the tool to the surface. I'm only just touching the paint onto the top dots, which is a really slow. If I slowed the video down to real speed, it's a very slow process, so that I can match the size of the top dot to be the diameter that I want to see. Thanks for watching. These are all painted with the same base dots, just with different top dots. Have an awesome day.